Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried & Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all your support. I love you guys for supporting this great cause. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Veracity Networks, iHeal Institute, Siegfried & Jensen, and Wasatch Recovery. Thank you so much for believing in me. We've had such amazing guests on, and today's going to be no different. Today we are joined by Rick Heyland. Rick, thanks for joining us.
Todd, it's great to be with you today.
I appreciate it so much to have you here. You wrote your purpose statement as a 26-year-old and have been perfecting his goal accomplishment system for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about that. I call it a declaration statement.
Okay.
When I was younger, and I've been doing the same thing, perfecting it. It's like a living document. I edit it and change it every day. So we'll talk a lot about that. Rick is a successful consulting executive who loves living and managing his life by purpose, goals, and effective stress management principles. He lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. He received his MBA from Ivey Business School of London, Ontario, Canada. Rick and his wife, Cheryl, have 6 children and 15 grandchildren. Rick, when he walked in here, I was on your podcast, which was awesome, but we had to do it virtually.
Yep.
But you are here live. Here at Wasatch Recovery, so I appreciate you coming here.
Awesome to be
here.
But
you look very young. You take care of yourself. I know that's part of your purpose. We're going to talk a lot about that. You wrote a book that we're going to talk about, Living by His Purpose, and then you have a website called ciforlife.org.
Yep.
And we're going to get into that as well. But you live an amazing life, and I think where I'd like to start with you, Rick, if that's okay. Why don't you tell our listeners, where did you grow up, and give us a little, idea of what your family life was as a child?
Sure. Well, again, it's an honor to be on the podcast and to be here live. And
thank you.
We've done so many of these things virtually, right? It's great to be face to face again.
Finally.
So I grew up in LA, not the LA you're thinking about. Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada is the LA I grew up in. That always gets people. So I was the oldest of 4 kids.
Okay.
Middle-class family, great mom and dad, faith-based. They believed in education. They believed in, success, kind of Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, all those things we were taught as kids. In fact, the story about the 40 years, I'm 60 years old, but it's actually been 50 years that I've been working on goals because my mother, born and raised in Cape Town, South Africa, moved to marry a farmer in Lethbridge, Alberta. So she was grew up on the beach in Cape Town, South Africa, and moved to farmland in Alberta. And she started when I can remember as early as 8 years old, having a goal success chart on, we used to call it cupboard number 2 in the house. And on that, it was Ricky has to do this, it was everything from brush teeth to play with sister to read a book to all this stuff. And I really think my passion and interest for continuous improvement and goals and how to work the success kind of formula is based on that early goal chart.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and how, simple those things were back then, but it's setting the tone and setting a pattern for your life.
Yeah. And a mindset. I know you're big on mindset. So that was the mindset I was raised in, is that wherever you're at, you progress from there.
Yeah.
You don't have to be at 100%. If you're at 40%, you're trying to get to 50%. If you're at 70%, you're trying to get to 80% and whatever you're trying to do. And so that was kind of the mindset. I used to get paid as a arrogant 15-year-old to read books, right?
Really?
Like if you'll read this Stephen Covey book,
we'll pay
I'll give you allowance.
Yeah, right.
So that kind of mindset, that was how I germinated at a very young age.
I love that. So what were some of the maybe bigger lessons you learned from your parents? I mean, that's obviously one of them, setting goals and trying to achieve that and improving. What were some other things that you learned from your parents?
Well, actually, I think the whole mantra, one of the mantras that I have today is work hard, pray hard, and work smart. Ooh. And I think all 3 of those things I learned from my parents in that early upbringing of Work smart is about education. Work smart is about figuring out systems and how they work, like a goal setting system or purpose or belief,
Right, yeah.
tweaking it and working on it. Work hard is obviously, grew up, my dad was a farmer and then got educated and a PhD, et cetera, et cetera. And pray hard from my mother, like, pray as if everything depended on God and work as if everything depended on you.
Ooh,
and that was the early lessons that really have blessed my whole entire life.
wow, I love that statement. Say that again.
Work as if everything depended
Okay.
on God.
Okay.
Or pray as if everything depended on God, and work as if everything depended on you. So
Dang.
you put the effort in,
Yeah.
and God will match and bless and inspire.
Wow, I love that. So, as a kid, what were you like? Were you a pretty confident kid? Were you an outgoing, or how were you?
As some of the youth I used to work with, all that in a bag of chips, like very arrogant.
Really?
Like
Okay.
you, enjoyed sports, played football, basketball in high school, and it wasn't till later in life that I learned the important lessons of you're not all that.
Wow. Well, what's interesting though is that you've accomplished a lot. I mean, when I, researching you and studying up on you and the things that you've done, not only individually but as a family, I think that it takes a little bit of arrogance, I guess.
Or, confidence. I like your first word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More confident. Yeah. I mean, maybe it was more arrogance as a child.
Yes,
But
definitely.
it turns into this confidence,
Right.
right? And you do, like, to be honest with you, just meeting you here personally, you can feel it. You don't have to say anything. I know you're confident. I can just feel it, right? I mean, how many marathons have you ran?
14 marathons, 26 half marathons.
And then I see also that you and your family climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah. 2017 with our two youngest. They weren't married at the time. And my daughter's a big hiker. And
Wow.
I was trying to figure out as a dad how to connect, right? Because each kid's different. And how do you connect,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some will just sit down with you and open up, and some won't.
Right.
And so hiking was her deal. And so she said, Dad, why don't we do something big? And
Wow.
so the four of us, Cheryl and I, and the two youngest, Tanner and Kenzie, we did Kilimanjaro. And it was an amazing lifetime family experience.
Wow, that is amazing. Did everyone was able to do it?
Yeah. In fact, the marathon runner, me, struggled the most. Like I'm at 19,000 feet,
Really?
wondering if I've ever walked or hiked or run before. And, you're not doing it with oxygen because it's not, 19, I think
Yeah.
the top is 19,341 feet, but who cares about the exact number?
Right.
But, when you're up there, it's, your body reacts differently at that kind of altitude. So I was the guy right behind our guide, Mr. Rick, left foot, right foot, left, but we made it. And it was a great celebration.
Boy, that is neat. And what a great way to connect with your family as well, right?
Oh, it was just we'll have that memory forever.
Yeah.
And it was just a great experience. And, and that's part of living on purpose, right? How do I connect to my kids, my grandkids, my in-laws, and how can I connect with them and be a positive influence? And that was one that worked.
Yeah. Well, I know you're really big about purpose, and we're going to get that to there in just a minute. So, you go through school, you get your MBA. At that point in your life, did you know what you wanted to do?
No, I was one of those. I always envied the lawyer or the doctor or the dentist that knew, okay, I'm just going to go on this track and that's what I'm going to do. And so I didn't know what I was doing. And that's maybe why purpose was so valuable to me, is that I kind of fumbled into it each way. I mean, it started with, doing personality profile testing. It started with, trying to do career aptitude testing. It started with taking a physics class and a business class in second year and working equally as hard in both, and C- in physics and a good grade in business. So, okay, I guess that's the direction I want to take.
Yeah.
And so, went into undergrad in business, and then was lucky enough a couple of years later to get an MBA. But that's actually where the purpose story starts.
Okay.
Is we move across country. So from Alberta to the East Coast, basically in Ontario. And so it was a big move. Cheryl and I had two kids at the time, Nikki and Brett, and we moved across country. And so we were nervous, away from any family, friends, networks, anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm the youngest and least experienced person in the MBA program. And so I'm already knowing, hey, I've got to really work hard.
Yeah.
And so I tell Cheryl, okay, this is, I'm going to study, I'm going to work hard. And this is my belief system is that if you work hard, you'll figure it out. And
love that.
So I get into this experience, and I'm about 6-7 weeks in, and we get our first major test back, and I'm the lowest grade in the class. Well, I don't know if I was exactly the lowest, but I'm down there.
You're down, yeah.
And it was devastating. It was kind of like, I made this big risk in my life, and here I'm working hard, my heart out. We're a little displaced, if you will, and I get this devastating grade, and I thought, oh my goodness, I made this major mistake in my life. We're gonna move back to a safety net. We're gonna, and so after a pity party on a Friday night, I had the presence of mind to remember. I've already mentioned one of my mentors and heroes was Stephen R. Covey and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I had read that, and I remember him talking about habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Right? I love that principle.
Yes.
And I had loved that principle, but I'd never really put it into practice until then. Yeah. And so here I am. I'm a little devastated. And so I go down, and on the weekend I tell Cheryl, okay, I'm gonna work on my mission statement. And I use the term purpose and mission pretty interchangeably in this case. And so I went downstairs and started asking questions like, what are my strengths?
Yeah.
What are my hopes? How do I want to be remembered? And you just kind of work through this powerful set of questions that were really, I didn't realize at the time how transformational they were. And so I came up with this simple, 30-word statement, or it was about continuous improvement. Actually, I used those words in this purpose statement, and I didn't think much of it. I went back to school on Monday, and no one would confuse me as the valedictorian of the class or anything, but I did better. Yeah. And it wasn't until about a year later, and we started the recruiting process, which is pretty anxiety filled in its own right. You got to sign up for jobs and see if you can get interviewed, and everyone going through BYU and other places right now knows all about that. But
yeah, right.
So I'm in this process, and nothing's happening. Like I'm either not interested in the job or I'm getting rejected. And all of a sudden, this little job, this little consulting company on the West Coast puts this ad in the at the recruiting office, and it's got almost the exact words in my purpose statement. Really? Continuous improvement, action orientation, making a difference in people's lives. And I'm thinking, this is revelation. This is inspiration. This is me. Wow. So I apply for the job. A couple days later, comes back. I didn't even get a interview.
Oh, wow.
So I have a bit of a pity party again. And before I could get too discouraged, I called the recruiting office. I just thought, I got nothing to lose at this point. So I call them up and I say, hey, this is Rick Heyland. I applied for the job. And they say, I don't think I was quite this bold, Todd, but I said, I think you made a mistake. I applied for this job and I'm not on the recruiting list.
Yeah, like what's going on here? Come on.
So they said, okay, Mr. Heyland, let's look at your resume. And oh yeah, you're pretty young and you don't have as much experience as the other candidates. And so I really didn't have anything to lose at that point. So I said, hey, let me tell you about this experience I had a year ago. I wrote this purpose statement about my strengths, my aspirations, my dreams, and it's almost the same words as your ad. So little silence on the other end of the phone. I said, okay, Mr. Heyland, why don't you put your name, this is before the computer, so put your name, number 11, 5 o'clock, write your name in. You'll be the last interview of the day. Great, thank you. So it comes to Thursday at 5 o'clock. The recruiting partners, they're exhausted.
Tired. Yeah, they're like, oh, geez, we got to talk
I got to do another one before dinner. So anyhow, long story short, I'm the only one that gets the job. I retire 32 years later as the second largest shareholder, and
wow,
I just had a fantastic career. Lots of ups and downs, but we grew that company from 30 people to 250 people, and I credit it, Todd, to the power of purpose.
Wow.
And it's not just for career. Like I've learned since then, there's tons of other benefits that we could go into if you want.
Yes, I do.
And but at least for me, I thought, what a revelation, what an insight. And there's lots of authors today that talk about mission statements, purpose statements, and that power. And when I retired, I thought, I want to add my voice to that because I've had this personal experience.
Right.
How can I share this with people that if you're articulate and you're intentional in your life, because that's what purpose statements and goals, right?
Yeah.
That's all you're trying to be intentional. You're trying to create on paper or in your mind first, so then you could go act that out. And so that's why I wrote the book, Live Your Purpose. And that was my inspiration after I retired to say, you know what, I've been doing corporate consulting for all this time. Now I want to do something, to give back and contribution. And so that's why I wrote the book about purpose, because I had that experience as a 26-year-old. So
that is amazing.
Sorry, that was a long story, but
that's
why.
No, don't be sorry. That is beautiful. So, I'm just like going, man, this is so cool. There's so many lessons to learn from that too. You didn't give up either. Yeah. You're like, you know what? I'm going to be bold. Like you said, I got nothing to lose. And then you told them what your experience was. How could they have said no at that point? So it's so cool that worked out the way it did. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And purpose. You talk about how those with purpose are 32% happier than those without a purpose. That tells you how important purpose is with our overall mental fitness and mental health, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did my own research, and that's that one. But I went in all the literature research on it. And
share some thoughts on that.
Let me just I'll just blast them out. And you've just mentioned a couple of them. So the 10 benefits, other than what we've talked about on career and intentionality: enhanced health and physical well-being, greater resilience, increased happiness, increased life satisfaction, better psychological well-being, more likely to engage in healthy habits, less chronic illness such as stroke or lower incidence of dementia, higher quality of life, longer life. Do we need any other reasons?
Yeah. Yeah. Who doesn't want all that?
Right.
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 Wow.
But yet we get a little bit anxious, or we don't want to, if I create this expectation in my life that I'm going to be X, what if I don't live up to that?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't, I shoot for the moon and I get, Arkansas, nothing against Arkansas, but I end up somewhere else. What if? And so I think that's some of the reasons why people, and you ask always, and I know you're big on limiting beliefs, and you ask always about that and talk all about that.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite / not favorite is the word can't. I can't do that. I didn't get an MBA. I don't know finances. I can't invest.
Right.
I can't get in shape. I can't do this with my career and my life and to me that is a massive limiting belief, that if you take the time to be intentional in your life through purpose and goals, that's one way to erase the can't. It's to map it out, create it spiritually, create it on paper first, in your mind first, and then figure out the mindset, skill set, and tool set on how to accomplish that intentional dream that you have.
Dang, I love that. Those are powerful benefits too. How does visualization play into this? Do you to talk about that and how that correlates?
Massive. I don't care if you're a business or a person. Visualization, and then writing it and putting it visually. Like you've got tons of visualization in your office here. I love a whiteboard, and I used to, even to the corporate clients, have a whiteboard in your team, in your lunchroom, in your team room. Have a personal whiteboard. I'm coaching 5 or 6 freshmen at BYU right now, and Rick, Tyler phones me up. Rick, I got this whiteboard. I got all my goals, my direction. That's great. And you know what? My roommates did it now. Rick, can you believe that? My roommates all want to do that now. But the power, and even in a corporate environment, a team environment, the power of having your goals and then updating those goals and talking about it and dreaming about it. And I even love the accountability system of individually or as a team. Imagine this simple practice if everybody did this. At that whiteboard, at that visualization, that commitment you've made, and it could be just 2 simple goals as a business or a person. You review it with your inner circle, your team, on how well you're doing and your next steps. Imagine if you did that every week. You're going to get ideas. Even if you're discouraged and you're not accomplishing your goal yet, you're going to get ideas, support, encouragement. You should talk to so-and-so. He's had that problem before. Right. But if you let it get in the public, it's so powerful. You know that from your story, right? Talking to the bishop and the friend and the little girl. And once you make these things public, it's scary.
Yeah.
But once you make it public and get and ask for support, it's very it's vulnerable, but it's very powerful, because then you've really made a personal internal commitment to it by visualizing it and getting it out there. And but you've also got a team around you, a support system around you.
Yeah.
Because none of us can do this on our own. Whether
Right.
we're trying to get an
For
MBA,
sure. Yeah.
we're trying to recover from addiction, whatever we're trying to do.
Yeah.
You name it.
Yep.
Qualify for the Olympics, whatever you're trying to do, we can't do it alone. Even
Yeah.
the best athletes have coaches,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Think of the golfer, the basketball player.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan,
had a
the
life
best.
coach.
Had every kind of coach.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Phil Jackson was more of a mental coach than anything,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
He was a mindset coach.
Yeah.
Read this book, Michael.
Yeah.
Kobe, whoever it was that he was trying to uplift and inspire and get in the right mindset. So, you got me all excited there. But the power of making it visual brings accountability, brings commitment, brings all those special words that we know are important to improvement.
Yeah.
But that works as a business too, not just a person.
Sure.
But yet we grow up with this mindset that I have to figure it out all on my own. I'm an adult now. I should be able to figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
Right? But that is so not true. That is a false mindset that I have to figure this out, or I can figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
Everybody uses experts in their life, whether it's financially, spiritually, socially, emotionally, whatever, physically, whatever you're trying to improve on. Use an expert, get a coach.
Yeah.
Jeff Colvin wrote a great book called Talent is Overrated. And he's going through this idea that it's not just about IQ. It's about, hard work and working smart.
Yeah.
Right? And being intentional in your life. Those are the winners. Those are the guys that figure it out.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. Working hard. I did that speaking event last night.
Yeah.
And one of the themes of what we were talking about is you're remembered because you worked.
Yeah.
You think of all the people that we remember in life, it's because they put in the work. Right. And that's what I hear you saying. The other thing I want to point out, it's really cool when you said, when we start telling our story, it's a vulnerable thing to do.
Yeah.
But when we do that, things start to fall into place. People want to start reaching out and helping. And I'll never forget, I spoke at the Utah State Prison, and one of the inmates got to speak before me. And I'll never forget, he says, if you don't own your story, it owns you.
Yeah.
I walked up to him and I said, I'm stealing that from you.
That is powerful.
Yeah. And that's really what you're saying is, because if you don't share it or don't own it, so to speak, it just stays with you and it's kind of consuming you. But when you get out and you get vulnerable and you share it, all these things start to fall into place and people want to get out there and help. Is that?
Yeah, so true.
accurate?
I even found that as a bishop or a counselor to young people between 18 and 30, that if people can become vulnerable about their weaknesses, about their gaps, about the things they fear and have anxiety, and then that's their chance to have to change. But if you keep it secret or on your own, or I'll figure this out by myself, it never works.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And that's the same principle, not just in addiction, but in life, in goal setting.
Yeah.
That's the same principle.
Yeah. No, I love it. So you've got your book right there.
Yeah.
Live your purpose. What are some things in there you'd like to maybe share with us, or what would someone get if they bought this book from you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So there's really three main sections of it. One is we've talked about is why is purpose important? What is the value, and how to do it? I go at lengths to teach a 7-step process on how to do it, because many people have anxiety about, I have to get it perfect. No, you don't have to get it perfect. That's principle number 1. You don't. I've recrafted it at 45. I recrafted it at 60. It's not something you craft every year, but it is something you can go back to, because now you have new knowledge, new insight, new learning, and you can redraft it. So you don't have to get it perfect. But after that section, then I talk about, okay, well, that's great. You've got this big intention, this big declaration up on the wall or in your planner or wherever it is on your computer. Now, how do I execute? How do I implement that? And that's where goal setting comes. And that's where goal setting is powerful. If you have your why, your purpose, people always say, well, what's the secrets to, because so many people, the stats, you Google it right now, 17% of people accomplish their New Year's resolutions, right? We're getting to the end of the year and people start thinking about that. Well, why? Well, one of the reasons is they don't have their why figured out, their purpose figured out behind it. If you can have that as your backdrop to goal setting, you're halfway you're halfway to success.
Yeah. I love
And then
that.
drop in your SMART goals, your specific, measurable, attainable, reliable, and trackable goals. And so in the book, I talk about examples of that and how to do that and how to not overwhelm yourself, how to start small, right? Oh, I got to tell this story, Todd, if you don't
Please,
mind.
no,
I hope
please.
we're not running out of time.
No,
here.
you're
But,
not. You're doing great. We got plenty
Dr.
of time.
Bob Mauer writes a great little book on continuous improvement. It's called Small Steps. By small things shall great things come to pass, right?
Yeah.
So he calls this small steps, and he learned it actually in business in Kaizen, the Japanese continuous improvement. And he came back and applied it to medical. He was a teaching doctor at the University of Washington, and he'd be with his interns and a patient and a client coming in, and week after week they would come in and no change. Right?
Yeah.
I got high blood pressure. I got cholesterol. I'm overweight. I'm stressed out. I'm, whatever. And so he learned this principle of small things or small steps through Kaizen, continuous improvement. And so he said, you know what? He asked the intern, can I take this one? So it was a lady that they had seen before that he tells this story about, a powerful example of change and goal setting. So he said to the lady who had high blood, all these things, overweight, stressed, single mother with 2 kids, just a really tough work, hardly any energy after work, but still got these 2 teenage daughters, and but hypertension, cholesterol, all the signs that poor health and poor vitality and poor life. And so he said, Dr. Bob said to her, he said, do you mind trying a little experiment with me? We've talked to you about exercise and the value of that in your life. Yeah. I just can't, okay.
Right.
Do you watch TV at night to relax a little bit after your kids go to bed, or even while the kids are? Yeah, I do. What's your favorite show? And she mentioned her favorite show. I don't know if it was Friends or whatever it was.
Right.
And he said, why don't you during one commercial break do jumping jacks or run and spot for that commercial break? Do you think you could do that? Yeah, I could do that. I'll do that. Okay. Do you think you could come back in 1 week and report on how you're doing? Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
So, you know where the story's going, right?
Sure,
She came back and I haven't lost any weight. I'm still stressed out, but I did the jumping jacks during one commercial break, 1 90-second commercial break. Okay. Do you think now, was it fun? Was it okay? Was it a big stress? No, that was fine. Do you think that during every commercial break or 2, what do you want to commit to? Well, I think I could actually do it during every commercial break. I'll do either jumping jacks, walking around, or running in place. Deal. Okay, great. So you know where the story is going, right? 6 months later, she's got her health back. She's lost her weight, her hypertension, all those things have improved. And it started with small steps. So many of us get overwhelmed with big purpose, big goals. And we don't even start.
Yeah, it seems so big.
Yeah.
I can't even start.
It's
it's too big.
It's too big. So his lesson to me is it just rang so true in the change management business. Start small. Just start small.
Yeah, I love that.
Get outside the door.
Yeah, right.
Get your gym clothes on and get outside the door.
Put them on.
That's the victory.
Yeah.
And then we'll move to walking a mile, and then we'll move to something else. So that's such a value. So anyhow, in the second part of the book, that's what that talks about, is the secrets to goal setting and how to get yourself out of the 17% category. And let's go to accomplishing 80% of our goals. Wow, and then the third section is my favorite section, and I think you'll love it, is all about, okay, I got a purpose, I got goals. How do I stay on purpose when setbacks happen? Because that is real life.
For sure.
Trials, setbacks, discouragements, bad things happening in our lives, whether it's our cause or not. And so, and these are lessons I've learned later in life, right? I didn't figure this out, and this is kind of my gift to people, in particular millennials. These are the things, if you could figure out now your strategies to overcome setbacks, because by the way, they will come. You don't think that as a 19-year-old.
No. Yeah.
But they do come.
Yeah, right.
And some of them call fast and furious, and some of them call later in life,
yeah.
right? But they will come. And so what are the skill set, tool set, mindset I need to overcome setbacks and stress and trials in my life? And a big trigger for me was actually the book you have right here, and I know you love, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that actually in the first chapter in that section, the power of staying present. It is the curse of goal setting is you're not happy. This is also a myth buster I'm trying to get out there. You can't be happy till you accomplish your goal. Rubbish. Yeah. That's not true.
Right.
Sorry, the South African mother in my just came out of me with rubbish right there.
You're good.
Yeah. So that is not true. The joy is in the journey. The joy is in staying present in what happened today, in this moment, in this hour, right? Nothing's the matter right now.
Exactly.
Right. And if you can train your mind,
Yeah.
because most of our minds don't think that way,
Yeah.
to stay present. And that's that's the gift Eckhart Tolle and many others are trying to teach us right now. So what I'm trying to offer in this book is this balance between still striving
Yeah.
and staying present.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's done that. Everybody, there's lots of people talking about accomplish big things in your life.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people saying meditate and stay present. And I'm trying to bring the two things together.
Oh, I love that.
Because I think life is about being full and hungry,
Yeah.
to take it from Philippians, right?
Yeah.
Full, I'm striving, I'm accomplishing, I'm trying to be better. And, sorry, that's the hungry part. And the full part, I'm content, I'm peaceful, I'm aware, and I'm present. And so I think if I'm okay, I'm beloved.
Yeah.
And I think if we can bring those two things together, we got magic.
Oh, man. So well said. I could sit here and listen to you all day. I'm
Sorry
serious.
about that.
No.
You got me on a couple of exciting topics.
Don't be sorry. No, I love this. Purpose is huge. And, I think I mentioned off the air before we started, I do my own personal declaration statement. And it's been this guiding force in my life. And I can't tell you, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have accomplished where I'm sitting here today. It's amazing.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like the power of actually writing something down versus just thinking it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you believe in these two principles, but people ask me, well, how do you get extreme motivation? How do you stay motivated?
Yeah.
Well, one is through your purpose and goals, right? I've got a dream. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is what I'm trying to do for my family, my work, my service, whatever you're trying to accomplish there. And I think the second thing, and I know you'd agree with this, is motivation is fleeting. Will is fleeting.
Yeah.
Depending on moods, we all have ups and downs.
For sure.
But habits aren't. If you can ingrain hour of power, you can ingrain habits in your life, and you and I believe first thing in the morning, but some people aren't morning people, so do it at night or whenever you can. But if you can ingrain habits.
Yeah.
So I'm not feeling great today. I had a lousy day yesterday, but these are just the same 5 things I do every morning. Right?
Right.
And that's where motivation comes from, because once you do your 5 things, you're off. You all of a sudden feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And you got some mental and physical clarity to accomplish what you need to that day. So motivation comes from both your intentionality and your purpose, but also then the habits that you backfill so that you can stay on course.
Wow, I love that. So well said. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was thinking, what does a day look like for you? I'd like our listeners to know, like, what do you do? Do you have a morning routine? I know you do, but what is it? Get specific. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I'd love to, because you shared that on my podcast and it inspired the heck out of me. I've just learned, and I even did this so now that I'm retired or semi-retired, it's a lot easier to do. But I did this even when I was at my, managing 200 people, busiest 6 kids, at home, and now they're married and living their own great lives, their own version of their best life. But it starts with prayer. And that's a stillness exercise. That's a slow down exercise. That's a get your mind calm to start the day. Mm-hmm. I try purposely, and I think you say the same thing, not to look at email for the first hour, not to look at anything like that for the first hour. Then after prayer, I go to study scripture, study an inspiring book. Then I go right to exercise. And if it's a run day or a bike day, and those are my 2 choices. And I rotate off because at 60 years old, you can't do everything. You have to do some CrossFit in there. And then after that, that's when I plan my day. That's when I can look, okay, there's my emails, there's my plan. And I dedicate a good 10, 15 minutes to planning. And
wow.
To be honest, and your mind's sharpest after exercise and emotional, spiritual development.
Yeah.
So I put a plan in place, and then I prioritize the 3 most important things on that long list that needs to be done. And then I go out and execute. And I may need another pump up at 2:00 in the afternoon, but nothing's stopping me after that hour of power, right? For those next few hours to stay on that plan and stay that course, because I got endorphins, I got all the chemicals flowing in the right direction. And so, and I know that's not too different from what you do and many people do, but if that is my number reorient your first hour of your day, whether that's at 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 7 a.m.
Wherever it's at, yeah.
Do it and set your day. Oh, I can't. I have to jump right into business. I was coaching somebody the other day, and I jumped right on email on the problems from the Philippines that come in. I said, oh, time out.
Yeah.
Don't. Do yourself a favor. Start with
Yep.
your 5 top building habits for emotional, spiritual, physical development and capacity, because you need to handle the stressors of today and the busyness of today and the challenges. You need the capacity building activities.
Yeah.
And that's what that hour of power does, right? I'm preaching to the converted here, I know.
No, this is great. No, you're awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'm glad we're both doing this together, because I think most people don't do this actually.
Yeah, they jump right into the problem, and that just brings you down.
Exactly. And I used to do that early on, and I'm so grateful I had a mentor show me the way. You know, I one of my favorite statements is, if you win the first hour of the day, you win the day.
Amen.
If you lose the first hour of the day, you spend the rest of the day looking for it. And so as you're saying what you're doing, I'm like, man, you've won the day, Rick. The stuff you're doing, you have set the tone. Like you said, the endorphins are pumping. I'm thinking more clearly. I got inspiration, revelation coming through. And guys, when I say this, I am not joking. The list of benefits or blessings that come from doing this far outweigh, not just will you achieve your goals and habits, create those habits. I mean, there are so many untangible things that you don't talk about. Less anxiety, less depression, more energy, more love, more confidence, better relationships. You know, the list goes on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you say, oh, I can't do what Todd does or Rick does. Start with your version of your 5, your power 5.
Do the jumping jacks during the commercial.
Right. Start with your version. And if it's 20 minutes to start, awesome.
Yeah.
And then slowly graduate it to, because we need capacity building activities before we go into those other stressful things that suck capability and capacity. Yeah. So you need to build it every day. Your spiritual, emotional. And I didn't know about emotional capacity building till my 40s. I didn't really get that. And that's what Eckhart Tolle and many others help teach you, right? That, I've paid attention to my spiritual side. I've paid attention to my physical side, but I haven't paid attention to my emotional side. How I can, do I have the capability to react to stress and setbacks and trials? And that is just as critical, you know, and those activities are nature, getting out in nature, seeing a sunrise, meditation, stillness, whatever gets you still and slows you down. And you can tell when you're reading your book or your scriptures and you're going too fast, you're not still, right? So you need to slow yourself down and meditate, or whatever version gets you slowed down. And so I would stress to the listeners today that most people have heard a lot about exercise and maybe even spiritual development, but think about how you can build emotional capacity in your life so that you can handle those setbacks that come. And sometimes they come in waves, right? 1, 2, 3. Totally. You're going, oh my goodness, I can't handle another one.
Yeah.
But if you've taken the time to build the reserves, you can.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. It is so worth the sacrifice.
Yes.
Because it does take sacrifice, right?
Yeah, especially if you do it at the hour you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm a little crazy. But the goal is, for anyone listening, like you said, I mean, I think I even mentioned it on your podcast. I started doing 15 minutes when I first started doing it. Got comfortable with 15, bumped it to a half hour. Got comfortable there, 45, and then eventually an hour. But it took me a minute to get there. It didn't happen like you said, and I took it slow because people right now, hour, that sounds way too much.
I can't do that. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Start with 10 minutes. Start with 15 minutes. You know, another example, micro goals, right? There's that, if you Google it on micro goals, that's another way to think about it. And that's the example of, well, today the win is opening that book. Yeah. Right? And today the win is reading for 5 minutes. Today the win is getting dressed and walking outside. Yeah. It's not running. Yeah. It's getting, that's the micro goal attitude. Yeah. Start small so it doesn't get your limbic system fired up and fight or flight, or that's too much, I can't do that. And there's that word can't again, right? Right. So start small to overcome the limbic fight or flight system that's in your brain. It's in all of our brains. Yeah. And so if you can start small on something and then, oh, you know what, I'm learning more about finances and investment and, you know, Robinhood or Ameritrade, or, you know, maybe I can figure this out. Start small and then work your way up.
I love that. You know, if there's someone who's listening right now to you, Rick, and they're in a spot where they just kind of like that example you gave when they're like, hey, just do the jumping jacks during the commercials kind of thing. if there's someone listening right now, they're just stuck. They don't feel like they have a purpose. They're just trudging through the day and they're just having a hard time. You've already given some great advice, and obviously I would recommend them getting your book, but what's something you could tell them right now who's struggling in that area?
So I would just say this simple thing. Get a piece of paper and pen out and answer this one simple question. How do I want to be remembered?
Ooh.
Imagine yourself at your funeral and you're able to watch. And you can't control what people say. This isn't about what control. This is about influence. This is about what do you want your kids, what do you want your peers, what do you want those that are speaking, saying, and thinking about you? Man, that guy was the richest, toughest, honest, successful person in life, or loving, caring, taught me. What words do you want to have described there?
Wow.
And then let's reverse engineer that slowly and in small steps. So once you've written down the answers to that question, then pick one little thing you want to work on this month.
Yeah.
Just one.
Right.
Not 5, not 10, not everything. Just look at that, what you wrote. Doesn't have to be a fancy statement, just write. And then pick one thing out of there. You know what? I want to increase my love. I want to increase my physical vitality. You know what? I want to, I'm going through something right now. My mother's suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. And so my constant thought is I'm going up to Canada next week to take care of her for a week. And she's going into a home for the first time, and it's a traumatic experience for everyone involved.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Dad.
Yeah, that's tough.
So my one thing is, how can I eat better? How can I sleep better? What within my control, what can I do to ward off that potential consequence? How can I bless my mother? And then how can I, within my influence, because I can't control whether I get it or not, but I can influence by what I eat, how I sleep, how I exercise, and how I kept myself mentally challenged. So just pick one thing out of that description on how you want to live and how do you want to be remembered, and just just work on that one thing for a month. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Right? Start small.
Start small. I love that. That's so great advice too. I love that. Do you have your personal statement with you?
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing that with us?
Well, I actually got it in the book. I wonder if I could find it.
If you can find it. If not,
at the back, but I can tell you it as well. So I'll tell you the evolution of it too. This might be more interesting to people. So it started out at 26 years old as I want to strive for continuous improvement in my life and my family's and those in my influence. And then the other line I had in there was, I want my continuous improvement efforts to be interdependently, a good Covey word, focused on benefiting my work life, my home life, and my service life, my ecclesiastical life. And so I had this vision that the things I'm working at work can bless my family and myself and my church service. And so that was a tremendously powerfully motivating idea, that the things I'm working at work about helping companies improve in performance and team building take home, and vice versa. And so that's how it started. That was the original mission statement. And then in my 40s, so 15 years ago, I wrote, after reading Power of Now and other things on building emotional capacity, I added this line, and this is a real tender and important part of who I'm trying to be and how I want to be remembered. I want my continuous improvements efforts to be full of love and acceptance for myself and others. Because there is the perception that if you're hard charging and accomplishing and making everything happen, that your love doesn't always show. Your acceptance doesn't always show. So I have worked really hard at trying to show to my kids, my in-laws, my grandkids, and those in my influence that it's not just about progression and continuous improvement and 1%, and it's also about the content and love and acceptance on where you're at for myself and others. So that's the goal of my, going to be my second half of my life effort, is how can I do that a little bit better?
Wow, that's beautifully said. Thanks for sharing that. Awesome. Well, if someone wanted to reach out to you, Rick, and get your book, Live Your Purpose, find your website, ask you a question, what's the best way for them to do that?
So, yeah, the book's on Amazon. Live Your Purpose, a step-by-step guide to living your best life. My website, CI for Life, the number 4 in the middle, ci4life.org. You can get me, or my email is Heyland, it looks, at gmail.com. Any one of those things, I'd love to help and see if I can bless your life, or these ideas can bless your life. And we'll start small and see if we can. I did want to mention, Todd, that just like
please.
you've been working a lot with millennials, or that age group that's in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And I just put out a brand new course from that experience on counseling young single adults. I've continued that over the last 10 years. And I put out this course called Millennial Money, called Rich and Happy. So how to secure your financial freedom, because a lot of people worry about that with our economy and where we're going, and how do I keep up, and how do I also be, because we know lots of rich people that are unhappy.
Right.
and it didn't scratch any itch for joy and satisfaction.
Right.
So I love the balanced act, as you can tell. How can I teach young people to find financial freedom and find joy and satisfaction in life? Because money won't give it to you.
Right.
And neither will just sitting around. So how can we balance that? So I just put a course on Teachable, but it's also on my website called Millennial Money, Rich and Happy. And that's a few videos, 15 minutes length, trying to teach people, young people, to set up their life. And by the way, step 1 out of those 7 steps, step 6 is investments and fun things like that. Step 7 is self-care. Yeah. Step 1 is purpose and goals. So it all goes back to that.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, I encourage everyone listening to this today to reach out to you, Rick. I want to spell your last name just so they know. It's Heyland. Yeah. And it's pronounced Heyland. Yeah. Yeah. Just so they have that. So when they reach out to you via email. Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have a great energy about you. I love the way you carry yourself. I mean, you really do look young, because you can tell you take care of yourself, and that's obviously part of your purpose, and that's shining through brightly. But you got a great energy, and I just feel really blessed to sit here and listen to your story.
Thank you. Blessed to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, and again, thanks for having me on your podcast. And what's the name of your podcast? Let's throw that in
CI for
there.
Life.
Okay.
Continuous Improvement for Life.
There you go. Check out his podcast. I was on there.
Yeah.
You can check that out if you'd like. But thank you for tuning in, guys. I told you this was going to be another great Belief Cast with an amazing person, Rick Heyland. Please reach out to him. Check out his stuff. I love you guys. If you have someone, and I would say parents listening to this, if you have a son or a daughter who kind of feels like they don't know what to do, they're kind of aimless in life, this is the episode for them. And I think you should get them the book, Live Your Purpose. Check that out, and maybe make it a family goal that you guys do this together. And it'll be a great way for you guys to connect, and a great way for you guys to really start, living your purpose, and that kind of thing. So anyway, Rick, you're amazing. Thanks for being with us today.
You're awesome. Thanks, Todd.
Take care.
Cheers.